What's going on, everyone? My name is Terminus, and today we're gonna do something a little bit new. As you probably can already tell from the title, today I'm gonna react to Jujutsu Kaisen, which is the next show I'm gonna actually do. I know some of you guys probably won't be too happy about it, especially you people who really prefer the niche kind of anime genres, but I've seen a lot of people reacting and really liking and hyping up Jujutsu Kaisen, especially obviously on the animation front. I haven't watched a shonen in quite some time, so I do think this will be a nice change of pace for me. Now, before we get started with it, one thing first, I have no idea what Jujutsu Kaisen is about, aside from it being a shonen and it being kind of in the ninja supernatural-ish category. That's all I know. I've seen a couple of trailers, I've seen a couple of shots, and I've seen a couple of promotional art and whatnot. I think one name, which is Gojo, which I think is the guy with the pink hair and our main character supposedly. So I do know that. Aside from that, I know basically nothing about this show. I just know people really love it, people are really excited about it and about the things happening in it, and people really appreciate the animation and the art. I don't know what studio it is. We're gonna check that out after the first episode. I don't know anything. I know there's 2 seasons right now, and people are watching the second season, so sounds kind of cool to me, right? To just get into it and do it for a while and then maybe have a pause and then continue when the next season comes out. So one thing first though, Jujutsu Kaisen is actually not gonna be a weekly series for me. Considering all the things that I'm doing, like university, working on the side, which, right, because YouTube is my hobby at the moment, and there's not enough coming in for it to be an actual side job and keep me afloat. So I do a lot on the side here, and I also do Frieren, of course, and I'm doing Made in Abyss. So Jujutsu Kaisen will not be possible to keep that up every week. So I'm gonna do it. I haven't figured it out completely yet, but I'm gonna do it approximately like this. I'll do it whenever I can do it, whenever I have the time or the resources or whatever. And each time I'm gonna record an episode, each time I'm gonna record a reaction, I'm actually gonna do 2 episodes. And these 2 episodes will, I don't know when they will come out yet, but they will either come out one week and then the next week, or they come out in bulk at some point in time. Patreon is gonna have, the early access tier on Patreon is actually gonna have access to both episodes at the same time. I think that's how I'm gonna play this. And then a week later, you're gonna have either one of those episodes or both of those episodes being public. So I'm gonna try and figure out how it works best, how people like it best, right? In terms of like the regularity of the schedule. But I think you can expect that at least once a month I'm gonna do something on Jujutsu Kaisen. That's what I want to do, if I can make that happen. So it's gonna be basically a halfway schedule that you'll get an episode every 2 weeks, or 2 episodes every 3 weeks, or something along those lines. So this will be the thing I'm gonna do. And since I'm recording 2 episodes back to back, we're actually gonna do it like this. We're gonna start with a pre-discussion to just kind of recap what happened last time. And the pre-discussion will be longer on the first episode, and then we're gonna have like a medium-sized medium-sized post-discussion. You know me, I like to talk a lot about it, and I always find something in the episode to kind of just talk about it and whatnot. So we're gonna do it like that, and then the second episode will not have as extensive a pre-discussion, but we'll still do the post and just kind of recap maybe the last episode, and then say where we stand in terms of the context and everything. And I do think that the series is probably not going to be as extensive when it comes to character analysis and all of that. I think the main thing I'm gonna focus on is just looking at how the general story goes, how the animation is played. We can go and look at Sakugaboro and see who animated it and why is the animation sequence so cool. Although I don't know that much about animation, but having seen a lot of anime, I can generally pick out a lot of the cool fight scenes where I'm like, oh, this really impressed me, and then we're gonna look at it frame by frame and see how it plays out, try to figure out a little bit something about the magic within it. But yeah, and obviously we're gonna look at like the basic characters and see what are their structures, how do they play together, and all of that. But yeah, I'm excited to go into this blind and see what's what the animators and the directors and whatnot throw at me and what I can work with. You know, psychology is always very applicable to all of these things, because every story that is created is ultimately created by a human, and so the characters in it and the way the story goes might not always be organic or natural. There's points where you can criticize here and there, but there's always some part of it in there where we can read into it and kind of shoot parallels to real life and to psychology as a science, but also to storytelling, right? Narrative design, directing, photography, art, and that is the amazing, exciting thing about all things animated. So, if you're new to the channel, I do have a couple of things. I have a series on Made in Abyss. It's gonna be it's weekly, and people who are on Patreon who subscribe to the I think $3.50 it is for you, like $3.50. The second tier, which is the early access tier, you're gonna get 1 week early access at the moment. Frieren, I'm also keeping up with Frieren. Normally I release Frieren publicly roughly a day or two before the next episode of Frieren comes out, but it's gonna be a couple of days early, sometimes even the weekend, like Sunday. It's gonna be on Patreon at that point, because oftentimes I just shoot the timer reaction on Patreon, which is easier and faster to do, so people can actually watch it on the weekend, and then I'll have a little bit of buffer time to do Monday, Tuesday for the edited reaction, and then it's gonna come out, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday for the regular public release. So if you want to keep up with that, I would really appreciate to have you. And yeah, socials are in the description down below. Would be cool if you subscribed, if you like my content. Give me a like if you like this video. Join the Discord or check out the page. Alright, guys, we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, that is the guy I remember. And we have all these weird ward things, sigils. Senpai, huh? Alright. Yeah, this is all these course warding stuff. Oh no, he's not called Gojo, he's Yuji, okay. Well, if that isn't a predicament... Alright. Got a couple of interesting looking characters. I think I spotted most of them. I don't know that one, but I've spotted most of the other ones before. Is that a panda? Alright. No, no, fair enough. And some weird, like, augmented reality shit. Like, not actually, but... Evil self. What the fuck is this? Alright. Lots of characters, interesting. An old grandpa, maybe? Yeah, this guy looks very similar to him. Itadori. Alright, so his grandpa is in the hospital. I know a bunch of old people who are like that, so. But he's still calling just to see if he's alright. And he's gonna come anyway, of course he is. Cursed objects, alright. So, supernatural, we already had that inkling. And we have our... Looks like it's gone. Just shut it down, it's gonna be... It's gonna be back up. It's gonna appear again. I love that little detail, it's amazing. The Cult Research Club, classic. And they're playing some kind of Ouija board game. The documents are all here. It's gotta be something supernatural, right? Spooky. Alright. Got a lot of those in Europe. So he's a hothead as well. Oh, but he's right. A grade 2 curse. So you don't have a dead body, but a cursed object. And he's still searching for this thing. So he's very sporty, I guess. Athletic. Rolled and smoked. Of course. Of course, just beats the world, the national record. He wants to, though. He's going to his grandpa, of course he is. Sinning. Okay. Ooh. Is he even human? No. And he's just living his normal life. Stop grumbling, Grandpa. I like their interactions. It's very sweet. It's a serious tone. He turns around, he can't be honest eye to eye. So very... He's gonna break the tension. Oh, is he actually... He didn't die, did he? Oh, he said what he wanted to say and then he was just gone. Wow. Such an abrupt, right? And he seemed fine just a second ago. I mean, they were talking about him dying, so he knew he had something, but I think he's not aware. Alright, so what are curses? Oh, okay, so negative emotion. Main Madoka Magica. Alright. Oh, means the energy is a lot. And his friends are in danger now. Ooh. Bro's gonna get a heart attack. You better hurry. Alright. And so he's in, probably. Oh, it's a finger. I love the design with the sharp nail. And then it starts. A lot of this reminds me of Chainsaw Man as well, even the intro and whatnot. And I assume they had to fix the thing before. But it was gone when they wanted to prop it up again. Right. And he knows more, so he tells him to stay out, but I'm sure he's gonna sneak in. Oh, he's got something. Whoa, this is... Alright, this is some... Alright. Here we go. Ooh. So are we using our own curses? And they're different because his grandpa, he knew he was gonna die, and there was not much he could do about it. In this case, he can prevent it. Or at least he believes so. Ugh. How the fuck did you get in here? But this isn't a proper death, right? It's a sense of justice we do have here. A will to protect others. Okay. Alright, so you gain power by swallowing it. But it's not over. And he worked on instinct, right? He saved him. Oh, okay. So his own curses are connected to physical condition, to his physical condition. Wow, that was a cool animation frame with the monster coming out of the wall. And once again, he's in. He's a meddler. He's meddling. Interesting, he sees it as a curse. What's gonna happen if he swallows it? Mm-hmm. So it's that type of deal. Holy shit. Just fucking blasts apart. And the marks. Oh, that is freaky with the eyes. Alright, so we have a crazy guy. Serial killer or some sort. Okay. Fighting for control. Oh, that is the preview. Okay, okay. I was like... For myself. Alright. Very, very interesting. We don't even have an ED or an OP or anything, right? It was a feature-length episode. Wow. Okay, Itadori Yuji, right? We don't even have the name of the other character, right? The blue-haired guy? Wow. So much build up, interesting for just a basic setting, and of course also a little bit of the pieces of the lore and whatnot. But yeah, gonna make a quick cut and then we'll move on to review. Right, the first episode. A lot to process, a lot to really get into, right? But it's definitely a very interesting story already, and we do already have a lot of breaks with the traditional like shonen kind of genre, but also a lot of parallels, right? We do have we start with a cold open into a predicament, being opposite of somebody, being actually captured and restrained for some inexplicable reason, and that raises the mystery, right? That's a cool thing, especially if you have a scene where you raise an atmosphere that's kind of intriguing, and people who have very interesting character designs from the get-go. I mean, Yuji is like kind of meh on the character design. I don't mean it's bad or it's like mid, but more I think Yuji is more supposed to look like your average dude, although he has some special identifiers, as every main protagonist does with his hair. But we do have Gojo immediately, but I was wrong about the name. Gojo being very, very weird in design, but also very cool looking, right? The white hair that stands up, and the cool jacket, and also the blindfold, of course, which is very unusual. And we have a mystery. Why is he here? Why is he supposed to be executed? But yeah, we have the name, which is Gojo, and we have the school he works for as an instructor, apparently, for the first years in Jujutsu Tech. So the first thing I'm gonna go into here is actually the name, Jujutsu, right? And we know Jujutsu from traditional martial arts, which it's a form of martial arts that, from what I've done in terms of research, originated in the 17th century as like an augment or a supplement for warriors to be able to fight unarmed, in the case that they lose their sword or it breaks or whatever, or they have to fend for themselves in some other manner without having their weapon at the ready. So that's a very, very interesting concept here immediately. But what's really cool about this is that obviously a lot of these terms do have an origin, right? They do have a general idea behind them. The words mean something, and Ju in Jujutsu seems to mean soft, gentle, or flexible, right? Yielding, pliable, and jutsu seems to mean art and technique. So it's like a flexible technique, a pliable technique, a gentle technique in a way. And what the core philosophy of this martial arts seems to be is to actually turn the strength of the opponent against themselves, right? And it works a lot like, I guess like judo, where it's like you use the momentum and the power of somebody else mainly, and redirect it in order for them to basically defeat themselves, which we already see here in the beginning, not in the beginning, but in the episode when we encounter the fact that our other character, Fushiguro, the blue-haired guy, seems to be using curses in order to fight curses, right? Exercise something with a curse, right? Exercise a curse with a curse. And that reminds me a lot of Chainsaw Man, which, I mean, obviously, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but alone based on what I am seeing here from the art style and everything, I do think this is MAPPA. So it makes perfect sense to me that I see all of the parallels in terms of like the OP that we've seen, right? I was wrong there that I said we didn't have an OP. I meant we didn't have an ED, we had an OP. The OP we've seen, a lot of interesting different characters that we can take a quick look at, but in the OP we already see parallels to how MAPPA does the Chainsaw Man OP. And I do see a lot of also in just the general themes and whatnot. Our Yuji here is a very unusual character. He is not dreaming of grandeur. He's not out there, right, fighting folks. But he's very temperamental, of course. He's very he has a lot of he cares a lot about people. He seems to be athletically talented, or maybe even that was kind of my impression, supernatural in some way, right? That he has supernatural origins. We don't know where his parents are or what, right? How they died. From what he talked about, that this is the first time something like this happened when his grandpa died, we do kind of get the impression that either he doesn't know how his parents died, or he was very young when it happened, so he didn't really he was never in that situation where he was right now with his grandpa, where he actually had to deal with it and process that actively as somebody who is self-aware and can actually conceptualize these things. So this is a very interesting thing. How will he use this experience that he made here with his grandpa and with the words he left him? How will that drive him forward in our story? But yeah, again, we start with that cold open, and we don't know at all what's going on. We do have the intro, a couple of interesting characters here. I'm probably not gonna get them all, but and I don't want to let it run through, because YouTube is often very like kind of a little bit of an asshole when it comes to these things, and just letting it run in motion. We have Fushiguro here. We do have another character that I know from the character art here, this girl. Probably a colleague or a senpai or something. Then we have the panda. What the fuck is the panda? What the hell? Looks like almost like a self-aware panda, right? One with like human-like intelligence or whatever. I mean, it's not unheard of, like in anime. They like to do stuff like this, but it's very intriguing and very weird, of course. Very comical as well if you see it for the first time. I do find this very interesting that he's standing knee-deep in water. I mean, I think that's an expression, standing knee-deep in water. That means you're in shit, right? Stuff is happening, and the water is rising, right? But the water is very clear, so I do wonder what that says about the themes of the story narratively, because you can clearly see his shoes. It's a very clear and serene scene, almost, in a way, with the fish swimming there. We have these quick flashes. At some point I'm gonna check them out. We have the mouth coming from the side, which is probably Ryomen Sukuna. I probably am butchering these names, but And yeah, we have amazing action. If this is Mappa, then I'm not surprised about the half CG, half drawn, cool fluid motion action sequences. We have Gojo here, very much an eye catch, and I like how he's pointing the finger, and then from that, I don't see it quite clearly if that light was there before, but it's blended very well in the sense that his motion goes in a certain direction, and then we see the light, the red light coming off. We do have this character. I think I saw him in a meme or something, but nothing else. Very interesting. Again, the water theme, but we also see a little bit of city landscapes. This is clearly some opponent or antagonist here licking the blood. And we have a better shot of her, and another character here, the one with the ponytail, and I don't even know what that weapon is called anymore. It's kind of like a variation of these longer swords paired with like I remember these things being very popular in previous times, like when you see them on guards of Eastern kingdoms or whatnot in various media. I'm very curious about how that one is called again. Not a weapons expert, but it looks really cool. It looks really unique as well. We do have this person, a lot of people, right? Old man and then very interesting blue hair, quiet looking girl here. In a suit too. We have guns. We do have him, Fushiguro, with the curses. A talk at the riverside, very interesting, right? It seems to kind of hint at us having serene moments as well. Mother with child, possibly, right? We do have a lot of them, and I assume that all of them we get to know kind of within the season. And here we have Yuji fighting against something and kind of getting a flash of his grandpa. Very interesting. We'll talk about that in just a second. Yes, it was Mappa. I didn't... okay, right. It was even there. I just didn't see it. And this is the guy, the whatever he is, serial killer, demon, necromancer, whatever. Some kind of scary guy. And obviously now we see why he looks like him, right? He takes over his body, but he can apparently somewhat suppress him, so... I'm sure we can talk a way out of this, be like, look, I got control over my own body. This guy's annoying me in the background, but we'll be fine, right? And then they'll be like, okay, you know what? You'll have to join our school now because we have to keep watch over you and we have to teach you the things you need to teach so you can actually fend for yourself and make sure that this thing inside of you isn't turning out of control or whatever. And we do have the finger and a plant sprouting from it, right? Very interesting. Something new grows out of this decrepit old dead thing. And now he's sitting here, and I think the water is a little bit higher, but he's slowly falling to sleep, and that's how we blend out the opening. Very, very curious indeed. Sure, there's a lot to read into it, and with each episode we get to know more about what's happening here and how this is going. So we do have this basic setup. We get to know who Yuji is. He's calling his grandpa regularly to check up on him, see how he's doing. Apparently they know he's probably gonna die soon at some point. For whatever reason, we don't get to know what kind of sickness he has, if he's diagnosed or whatever, but we have this really interesting loving relationship that kind of really reminds me of sometimes interacting with old people, where it's like they're stubborn, they're like, you take care of yourself, you make sure you do your thing and you do things differently than me because I have some of those regrets. I'm gonna pass on the good stuff to you, right? The lessons that you need to learn so you're gonna have a better life. But he's coming anyway, right? The grandpa says, you stay with your school, go to your club, do your thing. But the grandpa is, but you just like, nah, I'm gonna come tomorrow, okay? I'll be there. And then we have that little setup of intrigue where, once again, I need to look up these names regularly because until I got them in. Fushiguro is looking for an cursed object that was around the school that apparently is gone away. And I do love that little, I said that during the reaction, I do love that little thing where he's like, wait, this thing is missing, right? And he's like looking around and searching in it, underneath it, and then he just like closes it and opens it up real quickly again, like maybe my eyes are deceiving me or some shit. But yeah, it's very funny. It's kind of really endearing. And he's talking to someone on the phone. I can assume that it's probably Gojo, because Gojo says he's in charge of the first years, and he says later that he's one of the first. I think he said he's one of the first years, so it's probably his boss, right? And he says, well, no going home till you do your job. I do wonder how they do with the math and whatever, but a lot of series don't address that, right? You're going to a special school to learn special skills, or math, languages, whatever. It's not important anymore. You do your thing, right? You're born to do this. And we see that Yuji is in the occult research club because he thinks it's chill and he likes the people, right, that are there. And actually he can go home from school earlier to visit his grandpa. Obviously he tells that to no one, but yeah. We have a little confrontation with the club president and whatever. He says club's gotta close because Yuji is not registered in the club, and we find out that the teacher took it upon himself to kind of write him into another club, which is like, all right, dude, all right, very cool thing to do. But obviously we see this is kind of a plot point. We see why this is the case, because he thinks he's very talented. He wants him for the track and fields team, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna beat you, and then you go into track and field. If you beat me, you can stay in your stupid little club. Yeah. Oh yeah, hard ticks, by the way. Be careful, right? If you go in the underbrush, if you're around in the forest or whatever, like especially in rural areas, they're gonna be there, right? They're not always gonna infect you, but if you're vaccinated, you actually can avoid the worst stuff, right? There's still borreliosis, which there's no vaccination against that, although I heard they're working on one right now, which is very interesting. But yeah, it's a bacteria that's kind of like, but if you detect it early these days, you can somewhat treat it well with antibiotics, and then the chances are pretty high it's not going to come back. But yeah, if you're not vaccinated, the problem is you can get FMS. Here it's SFTS, right? It's a form of brain fever it's just it can kill you or severely damage you. So it might be good to be vaccinated there if you are somebody who is around in nature a lot, especially in tall grass. That's where they love to be. And then just, again, it's not always the case, right? And you can remove them. It's very hard to remove them without clipping off the head. And when you're clipping off the head, then since they're sucking on your blood, all of these bacteria that are inside them are gonna go into the wound, and then there's the chance of infection. That's just how it works, right? But that was a little excursus in parasites. Back to the show. So we're kind of establishing the school life and how Yuji is in terms of his character. He's very animated. He's very also reckless and brash, and just makes his decision in the spur of the moment, which can be, on the one hand it can be dangerous, it can be problematic, but on the other hand it's also sometimes a very, right, each one of us knew somebody like that, or even had a friend like that, who's just the person who's kind of driving the group, right, who's always doing this and doing that, and right, and that's kind of Yuji in my opinion, right? At least in terms of the character. It doesn't mean that he has to be part of an established friend group. He seems to be pretty new at that school. So yeah, it's very interesting, and his friends in the cult research club seem to be very dear to him, though, even though he only knew them for 3 months, I think. He said it later. But yeah, we do have Fushiguro kind of investigating curses here, kind of just looking for the object, of course, because it's lost. And he's observing how Itadori breaks the national record just like that. Right? This is why I'm saying I'm not sure if he's supernatural. Later we do also have a moment where he jumps up like 3 stories through a window, and I'm like, dude, is this supposed to be normal, and we're just supposed to stretch our disbelief here, right? Suspension of disbelief and whatnot, and stretch our imagination and think that is what most people can do, or is it actually a thing that not a normal human couldn't do, and he's actually in some way supernatural? Because aside from this scene where we see him breaking records and whatnot, Fujigoro doesn't seem to actually acknowledge later on that this is an impressive feat what he's doing. It just seems to acknowledge that he's being reckless and that he should disappear. But again, that could be a character flaw in the case that he wouldn't have assumed that Yuji is this resilient and actually this strong and extraordinary in this way, and he just focused on the problematic that some civilian who doesn't know anything about this is interfering here, and it could endanger him and kill him. But yeah, we do have this little occurrence here. They're talking with each other, and he's walking past him, and suddenly he has this feeling. It's like right, it's like, holy shit, there is some kind of energy, right? He gets a flash and sees these eyes, right? Obviously that's the visual representation of it. It's a very cool way, right? With the line art and everything. It very well establishes a feeling, also with the black and the red. But yeah, he takes out flowers and has his back and forth with his grandpa, which is very relatable, very heartwarming in my opinion. They're just low-key insulting each other back and forth and just arguing, but it's not really arguing, it's them interacting, right? We had another discussion in like where somebody said something, I think it was Vincent in the comments of Frieren, where he said this is kind of an established pattern of behavior that some psychologists and other behavioral scientists did observe, where it's like people play games, right? They throw certain phrases back and forth and have certain modes of interaction with one another, and both of the parties kind of agree that this is the way they interact with each other, and if everything works out and they have a normal interaction, it's something that's positive for both of them. But we do also see that there's some kind of tension in here, because the grandpa wants to tell Yuji something before he dies. At the same time, though, the grandpa has a hard time doing it face to face. We do see that in a second, where he's like very stubborn and looking away from Yuji, and Yuji is looking away as well, right? They are in a position where they care for each other and whatnot, and they communicate, but they can't do it facing one another. They have to do it facing away, which it's very hard to pinpoint that, but I guess it has a lot to do with stubbornness and also with social norms, how you experience feeling weak or being real with someone, right? Sharing your emotions, your vulnerabilities and whatnot. I mean, it's a great thing they can share that in the first place, even if they do it right through proxies, more or less, and beat around the bush, but in the end they arrive at what they wanted to say, and the grandpa does that. He turns around, he turns away, not looking him in the eye. He knows he can't do it then, and then he says it to him, like, when you die, you should be surrounded by people, don't be like me, right? And the grandpa, I guess, had somewhat of a lonely life when he turned older, and honestly that is actually an experience that is very common among older people, right? Your friends die, maybe your partners die, your kids are busy working and right, and being productive or living their lives or getting kids themselves. I mean, obviously there's the joy of having grandkids and not having the pressure of being a parent, but at the same time being able to take care of them anyway and enjoy their company and teach them stuff. But at the same time, right, he says, I made mistakes in my life. And I do wonder, actually, since we don't know the parents, like I said earlier, and since there is this weird interaction between the two of them, I do wonder actually if Yuji is somebody special in a way. If there's something that the grandpa knows that he's never told him, that Yuji doesn't know about himself, about his origins, about his ancestry, about anything that's happening there. So that could be an interesting mystery revealed later on down the line, because of the way this interaction worked, right? And his grandpa also being very focused on help people, right? If you just help one person, help them, right? Maybe there was something in the past of the grandpa where he, right, didn't help somebody or wasn't able to help somebody or come to their help, and right, and it can be something normal and mundane, right, as just a friend, without any supernatural situations, just not being there, being able to be there for a friend who was in a rough time and then it was too late or something like that. I think that is something a lot of us can relate to. This is a thing that's very hard on people if they see other people suffering, or if they didn't notice other people suffering, or if they were away for some time, they come back and find out that some of their friends or family or whatever had a real big problem and they weren't there to help, or weren't able to help, or didn't see it for some reason. But yeah, regrets and passing on lessons to the next generation. And then we have the call, and it's very interesting and very well made, in my opinion. They do it off screen, right, and you only see a part of his face, and then it zooms up, and he's in shock, right? He's not super sad, he's not crying, it's just this emptiness and hole inside of him. He knew it was coming, kind of, right? But it's a weird feeling, and yeah, but the scene is very well shot. We do have the paperwork, and then Fushiguro actually talks to Yuji and wants his relic that he took, which apparently he had given to his friends, which is the problem. And he'll explain a little bit something about how relics work, right? It's negative emotions. I was saying in the reaction, it reminds me a lot of Madoka Magica, in which case, or even, right, Chainsaw Man, where it's the fears of people, but here it's more general. It's the negative emotions of people that accumulate to curses. And I think this is also, I've seen it in so many anime now, I can only assume that it's somewhat rooted in Japanese Japanese mythology, in a way, that negative feelings and emotions are associated with curses and monsters, in a way. So if any one of you knows something about that, I would be really curious. I'm always interested to learn stuff like that. And yeah, and we explain it. This is the finger of Ryumen Sukuna, or Sukuna. No. I mean, I'd have to listen to it, right? Give me a second. Oh no, it's actually later, and we'll talk about it later. So it's a special grade relic, and normally they put it into these special I don't know how you call it, warding papers, or right, warding I don't know. But it's degraded at this point, right? Normally you put it in there and it's supposed to ward off other curses, because other lower curses are being kind of driven away by really high level ones. But as the warding stuff is slowly degrading, obviously there's curse seeping through, and at some point it becomes food for lower level curses that can then expand their power, curse energy, as he says later on. And that's why it's generally not a good practice. At least that's what I've read out of it, what Fushiguro was saying, that it's generally a bad practice to just put them there. But a lot of schools and institutions, hospitals, whatever, seem to have those, because there's a lot of negative emotions going on around people, around places where there's a lot of people. But this one, right, it's heavily degraded. They should have actually replaced the bindings, that's what I was looking for. Replace the bindings and the sealing scriptures, and at this point it's basically almost paper. Normally you can't scratch it off because you need to have a curse or be involved with a curse or something to even see it and not see it, but see the curses and be able to scratch off something like that. But in this case it's actually almost just normal paper, and they managed to do it. And so they free this finger, which is this terrible special grade relic that is very dangerous. And you see, Yuji does have this sense of justice and whatever. I don't know don't have those friends for a long time yet, but I don't want to see them die, and I want to help them, right? If I can. But Fushiguro is actually saying no, stay, because obviously, first of all, he doesn't know how capable Yuji is. We don't know that yet either, by the way. We just saw him fight a little bit. We can just assume. And second of all, obviously it's his job and his responsibility, and he bringing somebody else in there and endangering them is not what he is about. And that tells us something about his character, right? He takes his responsibilities very seriously. He's very straight to the point. He reminds me a lot of how he called, I forgot his name. Oh god, I forgot his name. The also blue-haired dude from Chainsaw Man, right? Our boy. I totally forget his name. But yeah, he reminds me a lot of him. He's straight to business, very serious, right? And also has a general sense of responsibility in this regard, and probably also takes a lot of pride in what he does. If I was to make a guess here. But yeah, our friends are in trouble, and he is calling his curse hounds to hunt the curse. But he is very late, and that is a very creepy image. The way the body forms, right? And it's just being swallowed. Very, very uncomfortable looking at it. So he's trying to stop that while Yuji is thinking about his motivations here. He's like, hey, what do I do with the words left to me? And what's different between the death of them, right? The potential death of them and the death of my grandpa. And obviously the thing is, first of all, he saw his grandpa coming. His grandpa lived a full life, right? He died, as he says, in maybe a minute after that. He died a good death, right? He went in, maybe also in peace, more or less. And this, in his opinion, is not the way to go, the right way to go. And so he needs to step in, and he has these words of his grandpa still in the back of his head. If you save somebody, if you care about somebody, if you make friends, make sure you be there for them, right? More or less. I don't know the exact Japanese wording, of course, but the way it's been translated is save them, right? Or even if you just can't save one person, save them. So yeah, very, very interesting. I do wonder if our friends from the Occult Club, if these are actually going to play a role later down the line, if we continue to meet them, right? Because I think especially Yuji and the girl seem to be very seem to like each other very well. But even if not, we do establish Yuji as a character very thoroughly in this one episode, which is supposed to be the main job of the episode, right? Show us what is the story all about and what's our central point of view here. And yeah, and he just jumps through the window. That's the thing. I was like, again, supernatural? Maybe? I don't know. But yeah, they managed to somewhat save her. And then he explains this thing. No, it doesn't taste good. Get stronger. You get curse energy and whatnot. Yeah, Rehuman Sukuna. Let me just listen to that for a second.
だったらせめて自分が知ってる人くらいは旧呪物両面宿儺の指だ。
Alright, so it's Rehuman Sukuna.
呪物両面宿儺の指。
Alright, so it's Rehuman Sukuna. You basically basically the first U is silent, which is often the case in Japanese. Actually, generally it's more the vowels at the tail end of a word, but interesting, Sukuna. All right, and we have a small piece of exposition before we are interrupted. Fushiguro. No, Fushiguro. Fushiguro is actually seeing how one of the monsters, or the monster, I think it's one of the monsters, one of the curses, is putting its hand towards Yuji, and he acts on instinct. At least in my opinion, that's what this is. It's like a split-second decision where he's like, shit, I'm gonna shove you out of the way, regardless of what's gonna happen to me, because obviously I need to prepare to actually defend myself here, and he wasn't able to. So he gets slammed against the wall, and he's kind of just very hurt. So he's a first year. It makes sense he wouldn't be like in control completely, especially if this is a hard job to do. But Yuji stays with him. He is dodging and weaving, and I do love this. I'm not gonna do that too long because of the YouTubes, but I do love this fluidity, this motion, the way it works, right? The way they animate the momentum. It's very believable. It's very nice. And in a moment where he's really just barely holding back and being at the precipice of being swallowed, he makes that decision. He's like, okay, if I can help them by doing that, by swallowing that, I'm gonna do it. And obviously he doesn't have the know-how. He's crazy, right? He's reckless. He just does it based on instinct, based on feeling. And 𝐿𝐥𝐻𝐿 here is sorry again if I'm saying it wrong, because Sukuna has kind of put my radar off in this case, but you can correct me in the comments. He is like, damn, he's gonna die from that, right? There's only 1 in a million chance he survives, and if that's the case, then it's even worse. And it's even worse. And he absolutely annihilates that thing, which is, right, we do have the momentum coming towards him, and he's just raising his hand, and we have the impact shot, and everything just, right, everything just splashes away. It's just being completely, and I wonder if it looked for a second like the intestines and everything, the guts that are spilling out, they're forming a Japanese kanji. So I wonder if that is a thing. Maybe I'll check it next time in a pre-discussion. Yeah, we have the long fingernails and the marks on the body, and then the eye is coming out, and this guy's like, well, I've been revived, it's gonna be a massacre. But yeah, a second later, it's gonna be like, dude, what are you doing in my body? Get the fuck out, right? and we do see that Yuji is very headstrong, or at least he can't be influenced all that well, or he has a talent for resisting curses, maybe, who knows, right? But he's not convinced, and he wants to exorcise him as a curse. And that is where we end this episode, on a cliffhanger. First episode already cliffhanger. But yeah, it's very, very enjoyable show so far. It's very interesting. A lot of cool animation, a lot of cool tricks that go into it, and obviously a lot of spectacle, but I enjoy that, right? It's a big change of pace for me at the moment, at least, from Made in Abyss, which is more mystery and emotion and intricacy and right? I'm sure a lot of these also have parallels with supernatural rules and right, but it's a lot more traditional shonen than what you know from other genres or whatever. So yeah, definitely a lot to dig into, and I do already I'm already curious about what's gonna be on next episode. Apparently we do have that confrontation with Gojo, and we'll have to see if he's gonna be executed, or yeah, what happens with that. But yeah, guys, if you enjoy my content, if you like these discussions, these reactions, I would really appreciate a like on the videos. If you're logged in, you can also subscribe so you can see me in your feed. Ring the bell to get all the new videos that I'm gonna release. And I do have a Discord. Join the Discord for discussions, to discuss with me or with other people about the shows I'm watching or shows I'm not watching, or novels or light novels or movies and games and all the things around. And just sometimes maybe just sit in there and have a little nice conversation and gel and just enjoy your time in the community. That would be really cool. I also have a Patreon. If you want to check that out, check it out. Not gonna say anything more to that. Early access and all of that is on there, but yeah, read the tiers, right? Check out the Patreon if you're interested. Other than that, I'll see you on the next reaction.